Recording progress. Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Yinghao Ma, and today is my C4DM seminar presentation. The topic is the impact of the cutting-edge AI technology to the music industry. I will shortly introduce the cutting-edge AI technology such as the large language model and stable diffusion, the latent diffusion model. And after that, I will provide some examples on how we can apply those technologies to the music artificial intelligence. And I will provide some example about the music LLM and music diffusion models for the music applications, for example, Suno or something else. And after that, we will discuss some ethical concern about the music AI algorithms. Oh, it's a charge. Okay, let's get. To begin with, I will have a short introduction for myself. My name is Yinghao Ma. I'm a PhD student candidate in the program in Center for Digital Music at the QMUL University of London. And this is my organization on Hugging Face, which is called Multimodal Art Projections. My colleagues and I form open source communities on the AIGC research, and we would like to develop the large language models for music and music relevant multimodal machine learning or something like that on Hugging Face. And welcome to follow our pages. Okay, let's begin on the cutting edge AI technologies. Recently, at least in the past 1.5 years, there are two types of AI technologies that is extremely popular behind. One is some language generations, typically the ChatGPT relevant stuff. Behind is the large language model technologies. Another type is the text to image or text to video, text to music generations. Behind is the stable diffusion is one of the most famous and perhaps the first, which is really popular and really powerful. And here is a figure generated by the stable diffusion model. And behind is the so-called latent diffusion model technology. And I will shortly introduce these two technologies to you. And to begin with, I'd like to describe what is the language model or what is mask language modeling strategies. For example, language model is a machine learning algorithm that you can use to modeling the language sequence. For example, you have a sequence, the cat eating some food, and typically for traditional machine learning technologies, you will hire some people to label the sentence for you. For example, they may label some tags for the sentence or something like that. But currently, people do not need to hire such kind of annotators on the machine learning. Instead, people use the so-called masked language modeling technologies. It masks some of the tokens or some of the word of the sentence. For example, it masks eating, and the sentence becomes the cat is doing what with some food. And the model needs to predict the missing tokens. And if the model can predict the eating token successfully, then the model will somehow have a capability to do the understanding part. And this is one of the most famous encoder-only language models on the natural language understandings, which is called BERT. And GPT is another type of the language models, which is decoder only. And the GPT models only trained on how to predict the next tokens. For example, how to continue writing the novels, or how to continue writing a paper, or how to continue writing an email letter, or something like that. Sometimes you will give the GPT some kind of questions and let the GPT to continue writing the answers. If the GPT is capable to writing the answers successfully and correctly, then the GPT already has some kind of capabilities on not only understanding the language, but also generating and writing the language. And here is a figure of the size of such kind of powerful language model. The x-axis is the number of years, and the y-axis is the size of model parameters. And you can see that roughly the model size has been increased exponentially. People found that actually, at least in the GPT type of models, you increasing the model size exponentially, then you can have a really good capability on the emerge of the language model capability. For example, for a small language model, it may be able to do some calculations, which is lower than 100. For example, it can calculate 10 by 10 is 12, but it cannot calculate 100 by 100 is 200. But if you increase the model size, then the model are capable to do such kind of math calculations with much higher accuracy and correctness. So that's the motivation of why people wanted to use more and more number of parameters and more data corpus to train a so-called large language models. And if you add the instruction following capabilities, then when I say instruction following, which means you provide an instruction or you provide a question and then ask the model to provide the answers. In this way, you will turn a traditional large language model to something like the chat robot language model. For example, you can turn GPT model to ChatGPT, and then it will be a really interesting breakthrough or interesting applications for the large language models. Besides the large language model, another really powerful and really popular cutting-edge AI technology is called diffusion model, especially the latent. The diffusion model is really similar to a traditional perspective that's regarding the image processing as some kind of partial differential equation or the time period of partial differential equations. For example, if you have a figure of capital S and you add more and more noise to the figures and even the Gaussian noise, then at last you will turn out to be some kind of nearly 100% pure Gaussian noise. And backwards, if you treat such kind of process as a training or some kind of teacher forcing process, then backwards you can provide the metadata with capital F image and ask the models trying to reduce little by little about the Gaussian. And the model might be capable to give you a figure of capital F. And such kind of process is called the diffusion process, and the model training with such kind of process is called diffusion models. But training on that kind of figure may not provide you a good result sometimes. So people develop technology called latent diffusion models, which means you do not carry out the diffusion process on the image itself. You using some kind of technology, for example, VAE technologies, you turn the image to some kind of embeddings, and the embedding can be inverted back to the image successfully. And after you get the embedding of all pages, you add in the Gaussian noise of on the embedding noise and turn that to the Gaussian distributions in the embedding space. And after that, you do the backwards process to reduce the Gaussian noise and make the Gaussian distribution to some kind of special distribution, which can be inverse to the original image. And by learning the latent space and the diffusion process jointly, actually not jointly, but you can regard as some kind of joint learning, you can get some image generation, text to image generation result, which is much better. You can see some of the image is really authentical, but is not exist in the reality. For example, people standing in front of the galaxy or the astronaut riding a horse on the moon or something like that, which are really really expressive and really interesting, and it can provide like a really large amount of monies, no matter like writing grants or applying some grants to the VCs, owning a startup company or something like that. Okay, what I have introduced so far is two types of learning cutting edge technology. One is language model, specifically large language models like ChatGPT. Another is diffusion model, specifically latent diffusion models like the stable diffusions or something like that. Later, I would like to introduce some of its applications on the music understanding and music generations. Okay. First, I would like to introduce some first architecture with its pre-trained language models for the music understanding. As I mentioned before, the current models can learn some kind of language understanding or language embeddings from kind of language tokens. And similarly, if you provide audio recordings and trains in a similar process, then you can also get a pre-trained language model for the acoustic music understanding. And such kind of embedding can be applied to all kinds of downstream tasks, for example, music taggings, chord estimations, emotion regressions, or something like that. And also, if you want to combine those models with some kind of natural language processing capabilities, then you can regard such kind of model as some kind of natural music encoder, and you combine that to a natural language decoders with some kind of instruction following pairs. For example, previously you have a music tagging dataset, but currently you change that to a question and answering pair, providing the music audios and providing what is the tag of audios, and you treat the ground truth tags in the metadata as some kind of answering. The music encoder and the natural language decoder, typically large language model, combined together will be capable to provide you some kind of music understanding capabilities. And you can provide some music and provide some music understanding questions and ask GPTs to do some like understanding tasks for you. For example, you can ask if the GPT-4o can understood what is the thing you just seen before or something like that. And that is some kind of applications. And after that, I would like to discuss some of the application of large language models on the music generation. First is the symbolic music generation. Because symbolic music, no matter MIDI or ABC notations, are both some kind of natural language symbols, and you can train larger tokenizers to treat all the music tokens as some kind of special natural language word. And you can train GPT models with not only the human language, but also MIDIs or music scores or something like that. And by doing so, you can have a model to generate some music based on some natural language input. For example, the chord input with some kind of score, or the motif input of some kind of requirement on the music structure. For example, it is ABA or ABA prime A structure for the pop song or something like that. And here is an example of the the model roughly follow the chord device and also result is maybe it's not good enough, but it's definitely interesting. Another example is using the large language model technologies to do some acoustic music generations. There are several famous examples. For example, Google trained a music large language model called Music LM, and Meta trained another model called Music Gen. And here is some example of the Music Gen. On the left-hand side are some prompts, which is given types. The model are requested to generate some relevant music based on such kind of task. And here is some kind of you can and it can do the music generation of areas. It's really amazing and really powerful. Oops. Okay, back to the slides. Next example is using the latent diffusion model to do the music generation. And one of the most famous and earlier work is called noise to music, because diffusion model during the diffusion process, it reduced the Gaussian noise and gradually turned the Gaussian noise to music. And there are two ways to do the latent space. One way is to have doing the computation on the spectrogram domain, another in the frequency domain. Another type is doing it directly on the temporal domain. And here I would like to give you some examples. And you can see that doing something on the temporal domain provide better audio qualities, I think, because there might be some kind of phase issues if you want to use a vocoder to turn the spectrogram back to the audio domain also. And yeah, there are some other examples, and you can check the website for those examples later after our presentations. I think we still have time for more examples. So maybe share some another examples. This one. According to my understanding, if you generate through the symbolic music, then the result will be more clear, but sometimes not that expressive. But if you generate it through the acoustic waveform domain, then it might provide you with some kind of more expressive result. But sometimes for example, the music picks I just showed do not have a really good quality in terms of the audio mixing or something like that. So there is such kind of trade-off. And yep. After that, I'd like to shortly introduce the applications to the music industries of the technology I mentioned before. There are many interesting music technology and startups in the past 1 years, within the past 1 years. Maybe Suno is one of the most impressive one. And for the Suno AI, you are allowed to provide it lyrics and provide it some text prompt. Inside the text prompt, you can specify the music tempos, the music keys, the music genre, also the instrument or something like that. And with such kind of music types and also the lyrics, and Suno AI are capable to generate a vocal track based on the lyrics, and also generate some kind of melody with the background music or with some beats combined with the melodies. And if you mix all the music track together to a really authentic result. And it's definitely do not have a really good music structure compared to the musician composings, but the result is already good enough for some music amateur, and it may have a really good applications for the TikTok background music and game playing background music or something. And besides the Suno AI, another really good example I remember is Jammable, which is a really good vocal track and the vocal track producer or something like that. And by the startup can provide you all kinds of virtual figures, and the virtual figures typically can not only doing some speech, reading some contents, reading some books for you, but can also sing some lyrics for you. And some of the figures are actually authentic figures, like the Prime Minister of India. Some others are some kind of typical figures, like in some cartoons or in some games or something like that. Or some famous actor. And some of them are really authentic, and the result have a really high concern on the deepfake issues. For example, a monthly ago, there is one famous example doing some of let users to provide some lyrics and ask the Taylor Swift to sing your lyrics. But of course, the Taylor Swift herself is really angry about such kind of applications, and there are some kind of call answer to the call or something like that for the startup company and some famous singers. So there are really severe music ethical concern of some of the applications currently. Another application is something like GPT-4o. Currently, the GPT-4o have a really awesome capability on the multimodal processing, especially on the speech understanding and speech synthesis, and it can also doing the singing synthesis, but there are not much music capability currently for the GPT-4o. But if we can provide a better abilities for the music large language models, then the GPT-4o might be able to helping you to do more music things. For example, you playing a piano, but you need to do more practice on some of the techniques. Then GPT-4o can listen to the piano, transcribe the piano, and compare the transcribed version with the authentic version, and tell you that you need to practice your left hand or something like that. Or the GPT-4o may also capable to help the musical teachers to do to find if some students is cheating or not. So such can, or if you are doing some music heritage protections, then GPT-4o may also provide you some kind of feedback for the world music you are currently listening, which you are not familiar with. So there are many potential applications for the cutting-edge music technologies in the following years. Okay. After that, I'd like to shortly describe some kind of ethical concerns about the and also humans' responsibilities on how to deal with such kind of AI cutting-edge technologies in music industry. First, I'd like to talk about something for the stream media platform, for example, the Deezer or Spotify. Typically, like several years ago, roughly in 2017 or 2018, people found actually there are many AI artists on the Spotify. If people are really like to listen to the AI generated music on Spotify, then Spotify do not need to pay much fees to the AI generated music because those AI do not have the copyright on their own, and Spotify already pay the people who develop the AI algorithms. So at that moment, people have such kind of debate whether the stream platform should carry out such kind of things like this. Another concern is if the stream platform continues doing something like this, then the diversity of music might be decreased on Spotify or Deezer because this actually hurts the income of the musicians and therefore hurts the motivations of creativities for the young musicians or something like that. So in the past years, Deezer and Spotify provide many new rules that will be put into practice in this year to trying to protect better to the musicians. For example, Spotify creates three new rules. First rule is if the music is in a really bad quality and do not recommend it to many people, and have less than 1,000 listening for 1 year, which is relevant to the 60% low quality music on Spotify, then the musician will not get paid by Spotify. So which means Spotify will pay more to the musician who is motivated themselves to write better music. And for the beginner like music amateur like me, I will no longer be paid by Spotify if I write any music sheet with AI or something like that. Second is if Spotify found the music of my like 90% is generated with Suno AI or something like that, then the Spotify will give me some penalty, like charge me 10 euros per month for that kind of activities. And the last one is for some kind of noise music or AI generated music, then people need to listen to much longer, for example, more than 2 minutes for me to get paid from Spotify. But for some traditional musician-generated music, it's still only like if you listen to more than 31st seconds, the musician will get paid from Spotify still. So Spotify provides some rules to trigger musicians continues doing some creativity things and provide producing some high quality music music. And after that, there are some other debate on the music concerns. One of the most interesting things I found is adding some tags. Although there are some kind of, although the so-called AI generated music is not that well defined because even for the signal, you still need to think about your own lyrics and think about your own prompt to generate the music. So sometimes the AI generated music is only treat AI as auxiliary other than treat AI as composers. But anyway, people still think, at least the UK Parliament still think that it's really good idea to tag which song on Spotify is AI generated or not. By doing so, the consumers can make their own choice on whether to listen to AI generated music or not. They can make their own choice to pick up the low carbon products with higher price or something like that if they want. And another ethical measures that we can take is about the copyright issues. The UK Parliament saying there are a really long debate on whether people can download audio from Spotify without permission from musicians, only for research use or not. And for musicians, this is no, you cannot do that. You have to ask me even if you only want to publish paper. But researchers think if I only want to publish paper instead of doing a startup, then I don't need to ask you for permission because I need to ask everyone. Like it's really hard to ask 1 million musicians or something like that. We still does not figure this problem out, but UK Parliament provides some kind of practical rules, which might be legislated in the following months or following years. For example, each company need to write down which audio is included in their training set, although it's actually some private for their companies. But if the company want to use the products to put the products in the UK market and the EU market and earn some money, then it has to report the training set to the UK and EU government and report whether they already like pay the copyright fee from Sony AI or UMG or something like that. One good example is TikTok pay in the past several years, pay a really large amount of money to UMG. So they can use the UMG music for the TikTok background music legally. But one interesting phenomenon is this year UMG stops the collaborations or the cooperations because they are fear that TikTok actually use those things as part of training data. And once they have the AI generation music algorithm, then they will no longer pay the UMG or something like that. So there is also such kind of trade-off on the copyright issues. And another thing is the deepfake issues, as I mentioned before earlier in this presentation. There are many interesting phenomena and really authentic. For example, the authentic virtual singer of Taylor Swift, which is definitely a deep fake for the Taylor Swift. And there are many UK citizens, UK adult citizens think deepfake is actually not a good thing. So UK government would like to provide better laws to better protect. Currently, we already have some kind of law on the in terms of commercial or in terms of the individual right or something like that, but the law are not enough to protect the artists and or protect the musicians. So maybe we need to do more things to prohibit the deepfake or something like that. And the last thing, the last thing we can do is to trying to train the musicians using the Suno AI and to combine the musicians and the music large language models together to compose much better music or something like that, other than not using the music large language models. So, and that is all for the presentations. Yeah. And for the Wednesday after the presentation, there will be additional 15 minutes panel discussions with me and another musician, but we can skip that part today. And I'm welcome for any like questions for the presentations and also feedback for the presentations. Any question? Yeah, go ahead.
You talked about Spotify enforcing different conditions, side tracks.
You mean this one?
Noise tracks.
Yep.
Who decides what is the noise track? I assume because of the volume, machine learning technique, you know, where the stream media. So yeah, who decides what's noise, which to start with is probably subjective. And if you then, as I suspect, with the musician and music machine learning approach, how reliable is that machine learning question? It's not really a question to you, I think it's more unless you have any insights.
Actually, I reference such kind of behaviors based on some kind of like the company's announcement other than some like technical reports. So there's no detailed explanations on what is the noise, but according to my understanding on their policy, it's more on some experimental music or AI generated music without musicians modifying. So it might be more noisy before you modify that, before you change that to proper music generated sound or something like that. And there are some kind of machine learning technologies, for example, for this year's UMT leadership position is actually trying to hire someone to detect whether the music is written by a professional musician or more some kind of deep fake or generated by AI algorithm directly. So, but I think that kind of research field is still relatively beginning, so that kind of algorithm may not be that solid yet.
Yeah, small remark in the previous point we talked about penalty for non-human creativity. I think the penalty for non-human listening, regardless of who created it, because I can perfectly think of probably boosting the real artist I signed on my label. So, do you get the point? So point two, so label distribution will be charged this 10 euro for fraudulent, like it's fraudulent listening pay, not fraudulent generation.
Oh, really? Oh, I will double check.
You know, usually trying to stop people uploading computer generated music.
Yeah.
The way I read it is this want to stop people from using bots to listen to music or static, you know, to get their point 0.0000 whatever per track.
Maybe not only stop AI generated music, but also stop AI listening music.
Yeah, stop AI.
Okay.
That is a small comment.
Mm-hmm.
On the slide, right early on, you had a slide showing the exponential growth.
Mm-hmm.
Some and it only went up to 2020. It's way too long. You did a newer one.
Yeah.
Ancient history. No, it's
in the log files.
All right.
I think it's just GP3 and this is instructional DBT or something like that. We have GP4 for all of us.
Yeah, can you see it? Need to be updated.
Yeah. Go ahead, please. Good questions. One empirical observation is if you exponentially increase the model size, then you also need to exponentially increase the data volume. So you do the square exponential on the continual resource. For example, on the Llama 3, they use 15 trillion tokens.
Sorry?
15 trillion tokens for the Llama 3. Which is like 15,000 billion tokens. Yep. But the model size is also really large, is roughly 300 billions parameters. So we did have a really different portion. Go ahead.
Mark Sanders sent some offline feedback about that not having any masks, which is good because you don't have any, and also trying to minimize as much as possible the use of deep learning terminology. Asked me as clear and simple as possible to school age, school teachers basically, and school age students.
What do you mean by
even the word institution might be confusing. Even at that level, maybe I think like large levels one might be the limit of where.
Okay.
But I think maybe the most we can include any details, demos, sounds that just be
Oh, what do you mean by the?
Yeah, what's the audience presentation?
That's the important thing.
The independent director of the high school, of the music high school, I think.
Yes, music high school.
And also some alumni, including the current musicians and the music teacher in high school.
Yeah, and think about what is their interest in this field, what do they want to get out of this presentation?
According to our conversation before, they are more interested in, for example, the music AI demos and also some ethical concerns, for example, how to prevent students from cheating or how to define whether the student is cheating when they are trying to make good use of the Suno AI.
How students cheat is one exactly about the debate they get, but I assume they don't not assign this, just creating something, creating a big sum. It's probably Play made this sheet, we call it classical music education, it's popular music education, jazz music education.
It's a high school supposed to be in that.
It is after school program, or I guess they don't do it full time high school, right? You know, nothing about music education. So, allows me. And how many hours a week?
Well, I guess it's an intensive one, maybe many hours. Minimum, I would say two.
Also one question is, do you think it's good to like insert some links in the slide and jump from the slides to the demo page, website page, or I download every audios and insert that to the slide?
Makes a difference unless you want to share the slides afterwards.
Okay.
If you just want to tap with your open website and tap.
Yeah, it might be easier to develop it, so you don't have to switch from.
Then it's, yeah. Yeah, now you just open to your own tabs, right? It did not bother me.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And one small second.
Sorry?
You can try to avoid the usage and fake and fake tab. Maybe that's it and work before you wait. You know, we cannot hear you.
Sometimes the music is quite long, like 30 seconds, should I waiting for the 30 seconds? Or just go 10 seconds?
Yeah, just stop, no, 10 seconds.
Okay.
We now get figured out how it sounds like.
Okay.
You can say, if you're concerned about the duration, how much time do you get?
So give me 30 minutes, 30 minutes for both presentation and kind of stuff.
Okay.
I think it's just not a presentation, it's 30 minutes, and I think it's more.
Yeah, it's not probably, yeah, if you have enough.
Quick question. I mean, in your opinion, what's the direction of this modern music? Like, text to music is, I think, the biggest trend now. But I mean, what are they now? Yeah, I mean, I don't know, 5 years, opinions. I like what kind of things are they trying to do? Currently, based on the latest research. Yeah.
With my personal.
Yeah.
Especially combine skill and.
Yeah.
But I think it might be busy. So I need to work. Not study this later.
Okay, but I mean, from the outside,
Yeah, so I thought before. So, I last before, combine this together.
yeah, okay, so I mean, more multimodality and less emotionally.
Yeah, but during the conversation, the AI providing you give the knowledge, you really understand.
Yeah.
And it helps you to try a little more and like the.
It's right.
Oops.